Well, that was an absolute ripper of a WBBL final as the Melbourne Renegades win their inaugural WBBL title off the back of some brilliant cricket. I mean, by the whole team, but specifically by Hayley Matthews, who was exceptional in all phases of the game. It was an interesting one on a pitch where, I don't know, it didn't seem like anyone was ever truly in. There was always the danger of a wicket falling. There were a few batters that, just when they looked set, you thought they were going to kick on with it. They would get out. Georgia Wareham was one there, got to 21 off 21 and then got out playing a really aggressive shot. And there were a few instances like that where you just thought a batter was about to take off and play a big innings and they'd fall. And that's what really kept it interesting. The Renegades' first innings score of 141 was anchored, though, around Hayley Matthews, who hit 69 off 61 balls. A really impressive innings. Just sort of kept plugging away, even maybe when she wasn't hitting them as well as she wanted to, and then, started to expand her scoring areas and, played a match-winning knock for her team. She had some support, as I said, from Wareham, who got 21 off 21, and Stallenberg with 16 off 9. So some support, but the main, the feature act was Hayley Matthews. And 141, it was sort of a tricky total, I think, from a chasing point of view. 140 was the fourth highest first innings total in a WBBL Grand Final. But you also had in the back of your mind that the Brisbane Heat chased down 161 back in Season 5. So this was a club that had history chasing big totals. They'd chased the biggest one of all. And 141, it was just in that perfect spot between where you thought, well, it's not going to be the easiest thing to bowl at, but it's also not going to be a doddle to chase either. It was just a nice middle ground. It was perfectly poised, particularly when you factored in the sort of the pressurized environment of a final. Maybe that 141 looks a bit easier to chase, if it's, game 14 or something in the regular season, but when it's the last dance, it's the big one, it's the big stage. 141, it only takes a few sort of quiet overs or a couple of wickets at key times, and really that's what the Renegades got. They got some early wickets that sort of knocked the Heat back on their heels a bit. I had in my mind that, if Brisbane came out and smoked a few boundaries early and got off to, a none for 20 start or something from the first few overs, that it might all just unspool for the Renegades, but they didn't. They got those early wickets. They sort of restricted the flow of runs a bit. Rain fell. It reduced the total to 98 off 12 overs. And, a couple of big moments. One was when Laura Harris came to the wicket, and you could just feel the significance of what was about to transpire. You felt if she was at the wicket for a little while, that she might bat the game away from the Renegades. If they could get her early, maybe it would just fall the home team's way. And she fell first ball. And Hayley Matthews getting the breakthrough, clean bowling Laura Harris, who came out and tried to play a really aggressive shot first up. So from there, Brisbane still fought impressively. A great team. Jess Jonathan obviously was the key, and there were times where it looked like she was going to bat the game away from Melbourne, despite trailing by so much, despite so many wickets having fallen around her. To still hit 40-odd off 20-odd and play some really brilliant shots. It really was in the balance. Probably until, the first couple of balls of the last over didn't quite, if they'd gone to the boundary, then maybe, had been some more sort of jangling nerves in the fielding side. But ultimately, despite a 6 off the last ball, the Renegades win by 7 runs. I think Hayley Matthews easily player of the match. As I said, 69 off 61 balls, but also chipped in with 2 for 24 with the ball. So, nearly had a hat-trick there as well. She was on a hat-trick, took the crucial wicket of Laura Harris, and also chimed in with 2 catches as well. So, I think that I put it out on Blue Sky. I said, if Jess Jonathan gets the heat to this win, batting around the tail, then she was the only player really that could have stolen this player of the match award, I think, away from Hayley Matthews, and ultimately came up short. So yeah, Hayley Matthews massively deserving. Big players for the big stage, and she delivered in the biggest way of all. As I said, in all 3 phases, couple of catches in the field, 2 wickets when she was bowling, and the top score of the match. So really impressive win for the Renegades. Just a great game of cricket too. I mean, I don't watch that much T20. But I've tried to tune in as often as possible this season to the WBBL, and there's been some great cricket. Watching Millie Illingworth a few weeks ago take 2 for whatever it was, 2 for 15, which was at the time a career best bowling figures. That really got me in. I mean, just the way she approaches her cricket, and maybe that's the secret really to this whole Renegade side, is how they've approached it. As a viewer, when I flicked on and I watched Melbourne play, it really sucked me into watching more, because they just went at it with a ferocity, but a sense of fun as well, whether it was, with the ball or with the bat. They had players that you wanted to watch play in all phases of the game, and it's ultimately yielded the biggest reward of all. So, as someone who's normally a bit of a cricketing curmudgeon who, hasn't been that massively into limited overs cricket, and particularly domestic T20 and that, I've really enjoyed watching it this year. Seeing Lizelle Lee's, 150 off 75 or whatever it was. There's been some really terrific matches, and the whole tournament really was capped by a fantastic game of cricket this afternoon. And key to it is the balance of the contest between bat and ball. The fact that there was the threat of wickets, but also runs could be scored if you, sort of remained patient and hit to the right areas, you made good decisions, you ran hard. That's something I think probably almost both teams could have done even maybe a little bit better. And the commentary team mentioned it a lot in the chase, but I actually was thinking it when the Renegades were batting. I thought you saw a lot of batters get out to trying to hit the ball high down the ground, and they kept mentioning in the chase, the deep pockets of the MCG. All you got to do is, hit it into the gaps, and you can pick up your 2s and maybe 3s. I think, definitely the Heat probably could have done it, but I even thought the Renegades probably could have pushed their total up a little bit by doing that, rather than, sort of seeking that big home run sort of ball. Just a few more pushes into those gaps to put Brisbane, under pressure in the field a little bit more. It's the only thing I would have said, really. But ultimately, both teams sort of played it the same way, and the Renegades did it better for longer. But yeah, the balance between bat and ball, so important in all forms of cricket. But particularly, I think T20 for me is really boring when it's just 2 teams, smoking 3 for 200 or something. Or that just loses some of the appeal. It sort of starts to feel like a home run derby or something. You've got to have both sides feeling like they're in it. The fielding side feels that if they bowl good areas and field well, they can get wickets. That total mishits aren't just going to go flying for 6 off an edge. Just as the batting team, know that they can score runs if they hit the right gaps, if they hit the right shots. So I thought it was just a great exhibition of what limited overs cricket can be all about, and I felt that a lot when I've tuned into the WBBL this year. So yeah, looking forward to watching more cricket over the rest of the summer. Thanks for watching. If you've taken the time, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, I'll probably be back during this week with a little bit of biathlon coverage. There was the relays last night in Kontiolahti in Finland. I think it's 7 or 8 days of competition in round 1 before we move on to the next event. So yeah, I'll probably have some coverage of that as well as some little entries when we're doing some more test cricket between Australia and India. All right, that's all from me.